and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I am going to tell you some exciting but also very scary news. So if you remember, back in January we were in Calgary and we were sort of looking at houses and seeing what the market was doing. Well, I can now tell you that we are now going to be owners of a house in Cochrane, Alberta. So we've actually bought a house. It hasn't closed yet, but we are in the process. So if you remember me having a chat with you guys and telling you about how crazy the market was going. So we were like viewing houses and we were looking at houses at like 499,000 and some of them were going for 645,000, like 145 grand over asking, 100 grand over asking, 80 grand over asking. I honestly thought that that was it. We were doomed. Like, where are we ever going to live? Because we're now in a situation where we can't buy in Ontario because we would need over $1 million. Probably if we went back to England, the COVID has been doing the same thing to their market, so we would be struggling to get a house back in the UK, even though we had a lovely one before we moved out here. And I honestly thought that it was never going to happen. Now, one thing I didn't tell you from our last vlogs in Calgary is on the very last day before our flight, the night before, when we were in the hotel, our last night, me and Scott were laying in bed and like both feeling really deflated, like what are we gonna do? We're in rented at the moment, but I want to get settled because renting is always a scary thing because of Taylor and his school. So if you're renting, you're not fixed and you're not stable, and Taylor has been to 4 different schools in the last 2 years. And that's just not fair on the lad. So obviously we were in the UK where we lived in Shaftesbury. He went to one school, and then when we sold our house we moved in temporarily with my parents. So we then went to live with them for a few months before we flew out. He then went to the school in Lyon-Solent. And then we flew out here, we lived with my cousin, he went to the school in Stroud, we then moved into the rented accommodation, he's now at the school in Barrie. It's just, I wanted to get sorted. Now, when we were laying in bed, we looked on Facebook Marketplace and we were scrolling through and just saw this house that was like 4-bedroom detached house in Cochrane. It said 560,000. So like I was at the point where I was stressed and couldn't be bothered, and I didn't even write a message. I sent the generic, you know, where you push the button that says like I'm interested or is this still available. I clicked is this still available. Now we got a message back because it was from Scott's phone saying, hi Scott, yes, this is still available. So I then sent a message back and said, I just wanted to confirm, are you an agent or are you a private seller? It was a private seller. So I was like, okay. So because if the property was 560,000 and it was through a real estate agent, I already knew it would be absolutely no point in us looking at it because it's going to go thousands over. But because it was a private seller, I was like, okay, maybe there's a chance. So we sent a message and asked if we could view the next morning, because obviously we were flying back to over to Toronto, and the lady come back and we arranged to meet at 11 o'clock in the morning before our flight. So we went round there. It was in Cochrane, Alberta. It's up like on River Heights, which is just by the Bow River, but up on high ground, so no chance of flooding. And the property was a 4-bedroom detached house with a double garage, a walkout basement suite, a raised deck from the kitchen, and a really nice sized garden. Because the issue, I don't know if I was saying it on my previous vlogs, is some of these gardens that we looked at made me want to cry. I mean, this is the biggest garden that we saw because most of them were so tiny because they're trying to build new builds and they just make them so tiny. And anyway, the lady opened the door and it turns out she was British. So we already had that connection from the start. she liked us because we were British. She had owned the house from new, so she'd been in there 12 years. It's only a 12-year-old house. And we made an offer on the property, and like, it turns out that she accepted it. And I couldn't believe our luck. I mean, it wasn't so straightforward as that. There was different processes, and we had to wait and everything, and we had to wait for a mortgage approval. So we went through a broker called Rock Solid Mortgages in Calgary. So there was a guy called Remy that is working with us. Now, originally we were told that because of the debt to income ratio, because obviously I'm barely working at the moment, I'm working part-time because of my full-time college course, we have to base it solely on Scott's income. And Scott's income is difficult because he gets a good salary, but it reminds me of being back in the prison in England, because you get the base salary, which is lower, but then you get all of these top-ups to your salary that make it bigger. But the mortgage companies don't seem to take all of these little add-ons. They will go for the base. So originally they thought we would have to do a B lender. And I mean, that was fine. We were kind of like accepting the fact that we're newbies to Canada, and we'll probably have to go with a B lender for a year. And then after a year, we'll remortgage and try to get an A lender, because by that time I'll be working full time. We'll have 2 good incomes coming in. But the great news is that we've actually been accepted with TD Bank, which is an A lender. So we have slightly lower interest rates. We managed to get a fixed term for 5 years, and it's all going through. So what we had to do when buying a house out here, it doesn't matter that we are non-residents. So if you're coming from the UK, sold your house, and you want to come and buy in Canada, that's fine. It just depends on the area. So if we were to buy here in Barrie, I mean, we can't because everything's over $1 million. But if we were, you would pay a foreign investors tax. Like there is a name for it, but I can't remember what it is, but you would have to pay. So as a permanent resident, you wouldn't, but if you are like a work visa or a temporary resident, you would pay 40%, I think, on top of the property price. So it's a lot of money. So is it 40%? Hold fire, let me just Google this in case I'm giving you wrong information. Okay, definitely giving you wrong information. It's 15%, but that's still a hell of a lot of money. So if you think about it, I mean, you wouldn't get a house, so like $1 million is what you'd have to pay to get a house here. So let's have a look. You would be paying an extra $150,000 just for sales tax. Now, apparently you can claim this sales tax back when you become a resident, but still, where are you going to find an extra 150 grand just to pay in tax for your house? Anyway, in Alberta, they don't charge this non-resident sales tax. So we just pay the normal price of the house. You can get a mortgage without being a permanent resident. That hasn't been an issue for us. The only thing is that because we're not a permanent resident, they don't trust us to pay our property taxes, which is like the council tax, ourselves. So it is going to get added into the monthly mortgage payment. But that's fine. I mean, we've got to pay the property tax anyway. So whether we pay the town or the city direct, or whether we pay the mortgage company, it really makes no difference to us. So that is absolutely fine. So the other thing that we had to do was get a home inspection. So the agents will tell you, in order to be competitive, if you're trying to bid for a property, drop all conditions, don't ask for a home inspection. Our agent didn't tell us that because he is more for the people and not for the money. He knows that you should have a home inspection. It's just that most people want you to skip it so that you can just agree and tie up a sale. And obviously if you're bidding on a property and the owners receive all of these offers and one comes in cash no conditions, they're going to choose the cash no conditions rather than the person that's bid that needs to get their mortgage in place and wants to get a home inspection. But anyway, because we done a private deal, we were all good for getting the home inspection. That was done, and I think that cost around $250. It wasn't too much money, and they done a really good property report. Luckily there was absolutely no issues with the house, which I was kind of thinking anyway. It's well looked after. That didn't raise any issues. The only issue that I've got now is it is now the 3rd, what is it? What's the date? 3rd or the 4th? 3rd of March. And Scott is now back working at the mines, and he is away for the next 2 weeks. Now we complete on the property on the 21st of March. I am going to have to do all of this house and leave and get out of here by myself, because he's working. He's packed his car up with boxes and suitcases and everything and taken it up with him. And when he finishes work, and he works, so he drives from Barrie to Cochrane, Ontario, not Cochrane, Alberta. He then has to get a bus from Cochrane, Ontario to the mine, the gold mine, which is up near the Quebec border somewhere. It's far. So when he finishes work, he is going to drive from Cochrane, Ontario across, and we're going to meet him. So we are driving. I am going to be driving, me, Taylor and Hugo, from Barrie, Ontario to Cochrane, Alberta. So that is going to be one vlog that you won't want to miss. Me driving from province to province. I mean, I don't know how thrilling it's going to be. It might just be me in the car, me in the car, me in the car. However, it's going to be an adventure, and I'm not looking forward to it. So my plan is, like any of you are watching, and if any of you guys have driven from Ontario to Alberta and know a different route, then please tell me and I will be all ears. But my plan is to leave Barrie and drive to Thunder Bay. I'm going to try and do that in one day. Now I think it is going to take like 14 hours and I am dreading the drive, but I need to get as much of the journey done as I can, because I want to complete this in 3 days. So my plan was to drive Barrie to Thunder Bay, stay in a hotel, and then the next day I was going to drive from Thunder Bay to Regina in Saskatchewan, and then from Regina to Cochrane, Alberta. So if any of you think that there's a better way to do it, then please put it in the comments below for me. I'm terrified, I really am. I don't know what the road conditions are going to be like. I'm scared that I'm going to hit a moose. I'm scared that I'm going to take Hugo out for a wee and there's going to be a cougar or a bear. I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to try and stick to the service stations because it scares me. And also it scares me that I'm responsible for this whole house and Scott's not even here to help me. Now I will show you around the house because Scott has done a lot and he has helped me. Like before he went back to work, he collapsed all of the furniture for me, other than obviously the sofas. So I'll just show you like what he's done to help me. Okay, so this is where our dining table was. So he's collapsed the beds. And then we've got boxes. He's taken the dining table apart, and I'm hoping that this is going to travel well because it's glass. I've got all of these little trinkets and bits and pieces that I need to pack. Then we sold Taylor's bunk bed because I didn't want to take the bunk bed across the provinces, and we could, oh, he's got This room was clean, apart from it's now got Taylor's clothes on the floor. So this is Taylor's room, where the bunk bed was. So Scott dismantled the bunk bed and I then sold that. So that's gone to somebody else for their family. And then the spare room, we've now got a mattress on the floor, which is for Taylor to sleep. And then we've just got some things packed up. So we don't have a lot of stuff to move because we didn't have a lot of stuff coming here. And then my room, mattress on the floor, Hugo's bed. This is my makeshift TV stand, bit wonky, but it's doing the job. And that's pretty much it. So it's scary and sad at the same time, because obviously we moved from the UK and we moved over to Barrie, Ontario. I have family here, which is kind of the reason that sort of brought me to this area, and I now have to leave them. But I'm telling you now, if you're leaving England, selling your home and coming to Ontario, you need to prepare yourself for the house prices. So when we chose to come here, we were looking and we could get like a nice size house for like 550,000. That was what we was expecting to pay, that sort of figure, and it's just not achievable. So if you're at home and you're looking at houses and you see, oh, what's she talking about? There's houses that are on the market for 699. It's pure lies. Well, it's not a lie. They do put them on the market for that price, but that is not what you're going to pay. There is not one house that you will find out here, unless it's like over 1.5 million, that might go for the asking price, because it doesn't go that high up when it's at that high price to start with. But no house will you ever offer them the price that they're asking for it. That just doesn't happen anymore. And this is crazy to me, because I worked for 13 years in real estate in England, and you would offer the asking price and of course the people would accept it. I mean, most of the time you would barter the price down, but you can't do that here. So we, like where I'm living, obviously you've seen my house and my street. The house kind of opposite is like it's got some older people living in there. It's like 70s style. It's like original house. So it's like, it needs like complete renovating. You know, if your like grandparents had lived there and you would gut it and start again and put nice new kitchen and new bathrooms in. Anyway, I think they put the house up for sale for $799 and it sold for $1,020,000. Crazy. There's a house on the corner of my street. They put it on for $999,999, so basically $1 million. It just sold for $1,250,000. Now, if you're coming from England and these prices are good for you, then great. Ontario is a lovely place to live, and I do love the area. And if I was a millionaire, then maybe I would be happy to live here. But the thing is, we moved from England because I wanted a lower cost of living. I didn't want to be in a house and paying out, maxing ourselves out to pay for the house. And that is what you would have to do here now, because $1 million, like, because obviously I'm now working part-time for a real estate agent, I'm seeing all of this stuff firsthand. So we advertised, there was a condo, a 2-bedroom condo apartment, downtown Barrie, $1 million it sold for. $1 million for an apartment, like, basically. And I just read an article this morning, it says in Toronto, you're going to be pushed to get a detached house for less than $2 million. So the prices are absolutely crazy. I don't know where these people with all of this money is coming from, but they're buying up the property. And then what's happening now is that people from Ontario are selling these homes for $1 million, but then where do they go? So investors are the ones that are buying these houses at millions of dollars, and the families, if they want to live in Ontario still, like, there's no point in them moving, because although they're sat on $1 million properties now, where are they going to move? Because they're going to have to pay the same amount of money or more to move somewhere else. So these people are now moving to, like, moving east, like Nova Scotia, Halifax, or they're going to Alberta. And obviously that's then rising the prices up in Alberta, but luckily we are now on the housing market in Alberta, so hopefully we're going to be millionaires. But like, you never know, like with the house prices rising, Alberta is behind Ontario, but maybe we'll become property millionaires. But then of course it doesn't mean anything, because as soon as you're a property millionaire in Alberta and everywhere else is way ahead of you, then where are we going to go from there? But it's just nice to think that you get something and it is an investment at the end of the day. I'm sure things will have to crash at some point, but I really cannot see things crashing by like 200,000. So the prices are going to stay up, and they're going to be around the $1 million. Like, I can't see that they're going to go a lot less than that. They are putting the interest rates up through the bank, but I really don't think, and apparently it's not going to make that much difference. So in order to move, we looked at different options of how we were going to do it and how we were going to get our furniture. Do we sell everything and buy completely new out there? But then I just thought that's stressful, because we would have to rock up to an empty house and then sleep on the floor until we can get some furniture. So I didn't want to do that. So we've booked a company. I looked at doing it ourselves. So we did look at like getting a U-Haul trailer, and that was going to cost around $4,000 for us to do it ourselves and everything, and for the fuel. And for $4,500 we have managed to get a company called Navy Seals Transport Limited. They're a company based in Calgary. Now for that price we only get half a van, not a full van, but because first of all they wanted to charge us the equivalent of a 3-bedroom house, which would have been like $8,000 for a full van. But I explained, like, although this is a house, we're only the upstairs of a house, so it's essentially an apartment. We're not taking Taylor's bed, so now we're looking at moving a 2-bedroom apartment, because we don't have a lot of stuff. We're taking 2 beds, the sofas, and then just the dining table and chairs and some boxes. So there isn't a lot of stuff, but it's stuff that we would need to get ourselves sorted and settled in. And then we have the lady that lives in the house that we're buying, we have agreed to buy in the basement suite. She's got a big sort of corner sofa, and she's got a nice wooden bed down there and chest of drawers and everything. So we're buying that off of her, which is going to help us as well, because we haven't got a lot of stuff, and now we're going to have a 4-bedroom detached house to fill. So it's going to take a while, and I'm sure that we're going to be looking on Facebook Marketplace and buying some secondhand stuff to get ourselves started. But I've got no issues with that, and then we can just buy nicer, more expensive stuff when the time comes and when we're more flush with money. But in the meantime, I'm going over there with looking at, I've got to then get a full-time job. Not yet, because my course finishes on the 22nd of April, and then I have to wait for my certificate to say that I've completed my studies. And then as soon as I have got that and I apply for my post-grad work permit, then I can then get my words out, I'm then entitled to work full-time, which is a scary thing. I'm looking forward to it, but I just need to get something organized. Now it's a little bit early for me to start applying for things, because it's March and I won't actually be able to work full-time, I guess, until the end of May. But I have seen some jobs that are advertised, and I have applied for a couple of things, like within the police, but not police officer, because I can't be a police officer until I have got my permanent residency. So until that point, like, I've applied for an administrator, I've applied for forensics, like for a junior trainee forensics, because that would be really, really interesting to me. I'd love to do that job. But we'll have to see what this brings, and you're going to get a whole new experience from my vlogs, because you've seen Niagara Falls, you've seen parts of Barrie and Ontario, and now we're going to be showing you a completely different province, and I've just got my fingers crossed that everything goes okay with the move, because that is stressing me, the fact that I'm here alone. And then Taylor's dad flies out from England next week, so for like the last week I'm going to be completely alone, because Taylor will obviously stay with his dad because he'll be excited to see him, and I'll be here on my own trying to sort things out, pack and organise what we're doing and the road trip. But if anyone's got any suggestions, if you want to know, the reason that we're not flying and transporting the cars is because the cars would cost about one and a half grand each to transfer from province to province. And also with Hugo, oh, come here, Hugo. where he's got his little nose. Apparently on the planes it's not great for them, for these short nose breeds, to be able to breathe properly on the plane, because it would be easier to just take him on the plane. We'd be there in a few hours rather than a few days. I just don't want to risk it because he's my baby. Look at him. He's so snuggly. Yeah, so it's safer for him to be in the car, and then he's protected. And we're going to get hotels along the way that are dog friendly, so that he can stay with us. And I just think it will be a nicer experience for him and safer, so he doesn't get any breathing complications. And he likes the car. He's really happy traveling in the car. Look at him. But anyway, I'm glad that I have now shared my news with you, and it's crazy and scary, and I'm going to be the most thing that I'm sort of worried about is leaving my friends, because I have made some lifelong friends out here, with like Kathy and Tracy and Nikki especially, and the thought of leaving and starting over, it scares me a lot, because I'm not going to know anyone. At least here I've got family, and then I've got friends, and I'm going there and I'm going to know absolutely no one, and I'm going to be in an unknown city, and I'll just have to try and make friends. But apparently Cochrane does have sort of quite a community with like people that have moved from the UK, so hopefully I'll have some sort of like common interests with some people, and maybe get talking to some of the mums from school, and hopefully I can make some new friends. But anyway guys, thank you for watching. If you've got any questions about the move or about what I'm doing, then please put it in the comments down below, and please remember to like and subscribe, and keep watching my journey from Ontario to Alberta. Thanks guys.